evening and welcome. You're on Monday Night Football on Soweto TV. Kamalamu Kamzambata. Make sure we know how it is. The weather sometimes, it can mess up, the signal. And we don't want you to miss tonight's show because there's lots to reflect on, especially after the weekend that was with the MTN8 Oupa. So we're going to be looking into that result as far as Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates are concerned. Of course, looking at the game between Bloem Celtic and SuperSport United. Discuss what's happening with the coaches as far as Josef Zinnbauer having to very quickly go back to Germany. And of course, discussing what of Gavin Hunt now, because he knows a lot more about the precarious situation he's in as far as personnel is concerned up until June 2021. Sounds cryptic now, but I'll explain it in a bit. Remember to join the conversation with that hashtag of MNF on Soweto TV. Let me introduce you to my panel this evening. We have a new face in the studio. Joining us is SABC commentator Brian Mufokeng. For the first time, welcome, Brian. Then we have Mazala Mulefe and John T. Mark. You guys were here last week, so whatever. I'm kidding, guys. Welcome. Welcome to you too. As we look into the weekend that was. And it was a big derby because, we're always looking at how these derbies are going to pan out with a new coach at the helm, new players in the mix. And it must have been a strange situation, Brian, for Gavin Hunt to see so many of his former players on the other side kind of coming in and doing quite a number over him.
I think first of all, if you look at the way they played, Gavin Hunt did say that he knows all these players. He even knows their wives and knows their places where they're staying and their friends also.
Yeah.
So he knew what they possessed, what they can be able to do as far as threat is concerned. And I think it's just unfortunate because if you look at the start of the game, Chiefs could have scored at least 1 or 2 goals before Pirates eventually scored their goal. So he knew the weaknesses of the players they were playing against, but he was up against it. It was always going to be tough given the sort of squad he has versus what Pirates had. And once I saw the starting 11, I saw the diamond up front. I thought, whoa, what a day.
No, for sure. You speak about the weaknesses, and that's what we're exposed in terms of Kaizer Chiefs. He makes a good point, Brian. Nyawuza was exposed on a couple of occasions where Billiat and Castro just didn't take their chances. Then after that, it just became one-way traffic.
Yeah, I think the opening minutes, Chiefs sort of carried on from where they left off against Chippa, where, obviously won a game via an own goal, but really should have scored 6 or 7 goals. And it looked like they would trouble Pirates, especially with a back 3 or a back 4 that doesn't quite yet, know each other too well with Tyson, Nyawuza, and, you name them. And, Juste also playing as a fullback and a couple of other guys. But, they were punished at the end of the day. That's what happens. If you don't take your chances and you go to sleep, against a potent Pirates attack. But I don't want to give too much credit to that Pirates attack. I think that Chiefs' back 4 has just been a bit dodgy, the last couple of games. Even against Chippa, there were moments where, Chippa could have gotten at least maybe even a consolation goal if the scoreline was heavy. Right. But it needs sorting out. Rama has gone from centre back to being on the bench to right back and then, being restored to the lineup again, that kind of stuff. So it shows you that even with Tower out injured, the only consistent player in that back 4 has been Cardoso, even at the back, goalkeeper, it's been Kune and Akpei, so it shows that Gavin's not quite sure of what's happening and he can't solve it by buying players as we know, so he has to work with the hand that he's been dealt.
No, for sure, and I think that would have been a rude awakening for him on the weekend, John T, in terms of seeing just how much work he still has to do with what he has, because as we say, that's all he has to work with for the season.
Yeah, I think he would have looked over at the Pirates team with a bit of jealousy because, and also seeing all his old players, Mochwari and Monari in the midfield, Fuku Manja being replaced by Hoto, who sets up the third goal for Pirates. It must have, but he did also say that he knew what he was taking on when he took the job. He knew this was a possibility that they weren't going to be able to sign anyone, and he's just got it's a big task. I think on the one hand, as he mentioned, this was a team that was sort of 20 minutes away from winning the league. On the other, Pirates and Sundowns have loaded their team up with really, really strong players, and it's going to be really difficult for Chiefs to challenge them. And I think that the gap sort of showed itself against Sundowns and against Pirates. I thought the Chiefs were, as the guys have already mentioned, really quite good in the first 10-15 minutes when they had some of the ball And when Billiat hit the bar and then he set up Castro should really have at least hit the target, if not scored. But after that, I thought out of possession, they really didn't. Their structure was a bit of a mess. It was like every time Pirates chipped, it didn't even have to be 100% accurate. They just had to clip a ball over the top, and Poulet or Lorch on either flank would just run onto it. And it was too easy for them.
Well, Gavin was critical of that style of play, Bruno, saying that they just pretty much, got the ball and then punted it up. But then at the same time, you have a situation where you see those players like Lorch, like Lepasa, players who, as far as Pirates are concerned, they've shuffled their pack quite a bit. Surely there should be a sense of continuity for Chiefs, or is it they need Samir Nukovic back? Because I'm wondering, if you can't play without him and get something, he's coming back as the most marked striker in the league. Like, people have his number now after last season. So how more dynamic can they actually be?
If you look at, John T mentioned something very interesting about, in fact, it was Mazzolo who spoke about the way they've changed things at the back. I think for me, where they exposed the most was on the right back position. Because what Pirates did, they forced them to use the left back to go forward. Philani Zulu, whom at Maritzburg United first played as a left winger before he was converted to be a defender. So his priority on a day was always to go forward. So meaning that the entire back had to shift to try and allow space so that Cardoso can slot in that position, Gezane can be there, and you eventually found a situation where you had Ramatlwe Mpahlele inside the penalty area, and you had immediately next to him Gezane. So the Pirates were always having the freedom on the left-hand side to keep on running up and down. Hence you saw at some stage you had Maela there, you had Zuka Manja there, you had Lodge joining the fray as well when they went forward. But you're talking about the attacking prowess. I think Castro could have scored 1 or 2 goals on a day. He really got those chances. One way he brought the ball down well and managed to turn Hlachwa inside out. And then he should have really scored, but he just put in the ball over the crossbar. There was one where Kama did all the hard work because Wade Yoste, just like we're talking about Philani Zulu, has the same problem. Wade Yoste always wants to go forward, and hence Kama Bila was able to get inside and turn him. Nyauza.
He looked very dodgy, didn't he?
For me, if a Nurkovic was playing on a day, I think would have actually punished. You'd have punished Pirates a lot because the aerial balls that they played in, they really were perfectly poised for him. Would have really done well on those balls. But one player that for me impressed me on the Pirates lineup in the back in defensive position was Maela. How his game has improved. You'll never see him challenge for aerial balls, but he was there, getting involved now and then, tidying up a bit. A lot of work needs to be done for Chiefs. They changed things around, brought on Bernard Parker in the second half to try and get them going forward. They brought on there Lesako. Very unlucky for him to have that pass. And then a pass eventually resulting in a goal coming out for Pirates. Sifama for me is one to look at. I've watched him at the Kosafa tournament under 17 level. I've watched him grow up as a player. Ngobo is still one I think Ngobo for me is one key player for them. If Ngobo is able to be allowed to have the freedom he has had in the first 2 matches, he played in the derby for the first time as a starter. That was a key moment for him. Lepasa, they always say that those players who really revel against certain teams, and Lepasa has done it. He broke the heart of Chiefs a year ago, and he comes back a year later and a bit, and he scores a goal. I still say that it was an offside goal. I know Mazola and somebody will say something else. For me, that was an offside, but the ref didn't pick it up.
Didn't play it?
No, the arm, you see, for a player who's playing infield, the arm is not active. The arm is not part of the playing part of the body. So therefore, that arm cannot be ruled as one that literally put him in play.
But those ones I have a lot of sympathy with assistant refs. Because you don't have VAR.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to do those funny lines that they put down the screen to decide it was a metre offside or whatever. You have to decide in the moment. You're encouraged to give the benefit of the doubt to the
And if you had VAR, the arm would actually play you on,
No, it was never want to play. The arm was never want to play. The arm is not part of a playing part of the body for an infield player. So the arm can be stretched out fully. The only parts that actually take part when it comes to offside are these parts and the head for an infield player. So the player who had stretched his arm out was never going to play him on side. The ref was going to judge Lepasa based on the fact that his body was already protruding. It's already gone past the line. His entire body was over. But one thing we have to also say, besides the arm, the issue, offside and everything, was how Pirates managed to play that ball in.
Yeah.
Zuka Manja was brilliant. The way he was able to pull the Chiefs
He
players
had so
out.
much time, didn't he? I mean, like...
Maela was next to him.
Rama was literally on his own with 2 players that he had to take care of.
That's the problem.
That's the problem.
That's the
That
problem.
was the problem in that situation. What about the experiment of Manyama being a winger? I mean, we saw this again in terms of, is he being utilized in the best position? Because people are wondering about his efficacy on the weekend. Like, he didn't really impact the game too much. And this is a player last season that was an impact player. He could impact the game. So what's changed about the way he's being deployed now?
Look, obviously Lebu in the early days of his career played as a winger.
For sure, in the early days, yes.
Was a lot quicker then, but you know, as you get older,
you have to adapt your game.
The pace goes. I mean, you know, as he
matures, there we go.
Whether it's maturity or getting older, you're one of the two, whatever. Bernard Parker used to be an out-and-out striker. He's now more of an inverted winger, or you know, just playing behind the strikers, whatever. So, you look, I'm not a coach, but my opinion is that Manyama is probably wasted there. You know, I think he had more of an impact when Ernst was using him as a deep-lying midfielder or just behind Nukovic and Castro. And he actually got a lot of assists and goals. Obviously, some of them coming from the set pieces. And he ended up, you know, making the lists in terms of, you know, nominees for individual awards at the end of the season. So, look, Gavin's experimenting. He's pretty much admitted that, you know, that with not being able to bring in new players, you've got to see where you can plug in players and what have you. But I don't think it's going to work out with Manyama playing as a winger. For me, he's not pacey enough. I think he's more effective deep lying or even playing behind the strikers. That's where he proved to be more effective. Because the other thing, I think Gavin's also trying to put his own, you know, imprint. You know, he's trying to change a lot of what Ernst does. But, you know, at the moment, it's not worked out for him. And people are, I mean, look, that same team, Ernst, you know, missed out on winning the league by 20 minutes.
For sure.
Criticize Ernst all you like, but he had the same squad, you know. So what's changed? They've not become bad players overnight. But I think obviously under new management, things do take time to work out. But Ernst never lost the Soweto derby.
There is that tiny matter. And I mean, you know, Ernst didn't lose one. And we're looking at a situation where Chiefs strikers haven't scored. I mean, you know, we've got 4 games and they've just not been able to do anything in a market that they can't even participate in.
Yeah, they haven't been able to buy any players. Strikers haven't fired. I think against Maritzburg it was the left back Sassman who didn't even play on the weekend. Then it was an own goal. So yeah, they've struggled. But they did they were a bit unlucky against Chipper. They hit the woodwork more times than most
shouldn't
teams
have that
would
been practice for the derby? If you miss all those chances, come the derby.
No, you would
should
think they'd
score.
be a bit more clinical in the derby. Bediat had his chance, Castro had his chance. And if that one of those goes in, you don't know what kind of shape the game takes on, because then Chiefs can sit back even more and play on the counter-attack, although Pirates were dominating possession anyway in the game. But I think, it is a struggle for them. I do have sympathy with Gavin Hunt because of the transfer ban. Middendorp was able to shape the team in his own image a little bit. He wanted Nurkovic for a reason. They went out and got for him. Gavin hasn't been able, presumably said, I need a left back, get me Hlanty, but Hlanty's not able to.
You were talking about great segues before we got into the show. That's a great segue to my next question.
And he's not able to play for them.
Exactly. This ban now until 2021, Brian.
You know, before I actually come to that, can I answer this? You know, there's something that we're talking about Manyama's play. When Manyama came back during after the COVID break, he didn't play the same way. The reason was there was more work for him to do.
He was overweight.
Just
say he was overweight.
He was not like me, but
but he was overweight.
But that's number one. But number two also was that there was no, you know, when Maluleka was there was that player that always covered for him, allowed him to get in and be the deep lying attacker.
Right.
Where every time the ball came out, he was always there and available to get the ball. With that not available for him, he therefore had to try and get the ball himself or carry the ball forward himself, which proved to be a problem because you're talking about the overweight part.
Because he was overweight.
He couldn't run and couldn't actually feed himself and set himself as much as he wanted to. You know, with Bakas coming in and you have a Bakas coming in, Ngobo coming in the middle of a park, it's a different way to play. So therefore now if he's playing on a wing, you already know he's got a problem because every time they lose possession, he needs to come and track back and try and cover.
Which is something you don't want to leave to him.
That's something you don't want to leave to him at the moment. So that's just another challenge.
Yeah.
But the ban, I think the ban is something very huge from a Chiefs point of view. I was saying that if expectation was that Gavin will start being, whoa, wait a bit.
Yeah.
I don't think this season should be talking about trophies.
Yeah.
Should be looking at him building a team that will be able to have Gavin's imprint, and he'll be able to say, this is the team that I formed. I need now to be able to beef up these positions. I believe that we need to have this player here, Norkovic comes in back into the team, they're able to look at Matoa sitting on the bench, and it's good news for them. Because in Matoa is coming back, you know, the central pairing together with Matoa coming back and be able to play. So that's going to be good news for them going forward. But what I love is that while we complain and talk about the fact that they cannot be able to sign players, it has given South Africa a chance to see younger players whom we're never going to get a chance to play at any given time. So these players now are the ones who have to raise their hands and show that we've been signed by Chiefs, we are a product of Kaizer Chiefs, this is what we can do.
Well, let's hope. I mean, they grabbed that chance with both hands, but the other teams are reinforcing. We're going to get to Sundowns a little later in terms of the number of players they're bringing in. But before we get there, let's just, speak about the Josef Zinnbauer situation. It was made apparent to us at the weekend that he has to leave the country, but there seems to be this crazy narrative that he's been let go of the club, he's not coming back. Meanwhile, the club have gone on record to state that, no, that's not the case. Right, Mazog?
Yeah, look, I think, I was saying off air that for me it's a little bit easier to understand and believe the club's word, because I had heard of the situation a week before, but I took the decision not to write the story because it would have come across as insensitive. For sure. Because the coach's son had been in an accident, therefore in hospital, but I think just now regaining consciousness, and it was a decision for the coach to then make to head back home. Yeah. And I think there was a social media storm on Saturday night after that Chiefs game that the coach not coming back. We've seen this movie before. Pirates coaches have left under a dark cloud. Look at Micho. But dare I remind people that when Micho left, it was Micho who said his mom was ill. The club never said his mom was ill. The club said the coach has resigned. Because he sees an opportunity somewhere else. We tried to talk him out of it, but he didn't. Right. And then the coach himself, in his own statement, said he's got to see his mom, and then obviously turned up at Zamalek. It's another story.
About the mummy.
Story.
Mom has a place
he was talking about the mummy in Egypt. not the mom. So Zinnbauer, and that's what I'm saying. For me, it's easier to understand because I got wind of the situation a week earlier. But as I said, editorially, we decided not to run with the story. So for me, I'm not surprised that Pirates have seemingly been going all out to rubbish. Yes, also to rubbish all the stories. And I saw a couple of news publications retracting some of the stories that they had published on a Saturday evening or Saturday night about the coach resigning and going to Germany and not coming back. There was also this rumor that Germany is going under lockdown, so the coach, when he gets there, he can't come out. But the reality is that he can arrive, he can leave if he's going back to work, and that's the arrangement. So I think, from what the club is saying, we should expect to see the coach on the bench when they play Chiefs in the second leg of the MTN8. So, but if we don't, then the club then must be held accountable. Because why then release a statement saying he's coming back? And then why then go so aggressively to discredit the publications that have seemingly insinuated that the coach has resigned and he's not coming back? Right. So it's one to watch for sure because of the history of what's gone on with Pirates coaches. But I for one, believe that the coach is really coming back, and I'm going to hold the club accountable if that turns out to be otherwise.
We want to know what you think about that. Do you think Josef Zinnbauer will be back to take charge for the second leg of that derby? Involve yourself with the hashtag MNF on Soweto TV. We want to get your thoughts. But in terms of silver linings at Orlando Pirates, the resurgence of Themba Nkosi Lochu at the weekend walks away with the man of the match. And such a composed finish, even though they were trying to hack him down before he took that goal. But these are the positives that you need at the beginning of a season if you're trying to win trophies like Pirates are.
Yeah, and I thought Lochu was excellent and deserved his man of the match award. Yeah, he took his goal very well, as you said, and he looks like a man reborn. I think that maybe he got a kick up the behind, so to speak, with his disciplinary issue in the bio bubble. Obviously, he was disappointed not to get the move to Europe that he wanted. That kind of set him back, I think, a bit after he won Player of the Season. But he's he really did play well, and there's signs that he's got his feet on the ground. He's ready to go again this season, and he's a fantastic player. I mean, he did also obviously send in that low cross for Poulet to get the second. I mean, you can blame Chiefs defence for giving Poulet about 20 minutes to turn on the ball.
Turn the
stick
barge.
it in the back of the net.
Turn the barge.
But it was a nice move, and I think Pirates, the front three for Pirates clicked really well, or the front four, if you like, with Zuckermanja as well. They really did. They didn't miss Gabardino, who was their top scorer last season, and that's really a good reflection on their performance. I think Lepasa, when he came in the previous game, was really revitalised the attack a bit and got them going a bit when they were a bit sort of stifled. And he also looks like someone who's really improved this season. So Poulet also is a tremendous player in his day and took his goal really well, even if he was given that much time. So I think, and Zuckermanja's added something there with his goal in the quarter-final, and then a brilliant cross, as Brian mentioned, for the goal. So I think it's really looking good for Pirates in a sense, and they have strengthened, which is again why I have empathy with, or some sympathy with, Gavin and Chiefs. They can't, as Brian said, can they really say they're in the title race? It's like Wits have basically, a very good side, have just been sort of absorbed by Pirates and Sundowns. And then Pirates and Sundowns, I'm not a scientist, but they've sort of, by degree improved like this. They've improved
for sure.
Hugely.
At the expense of Gavin Consulting.
We'll get to that later, but they've also absorbed Shalolile, Erasmus.
We could go on and on and on, but we don't have that time, Jonty. We're going to come back to that. Okay, guys, we're taking a short little break, after which Monday Night Football does continue. Please use that hashtag. It's MNF on Soweto TV. Don't go too far. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back. It's Monday Night Football on Soweto TV. Imu Kamzambata, and I'm joined by my panel, who we've been having a very robust discussion about the first game in the MTN8. But of course, on Sunday we saw Bloem Celtic in action against SuperSport United, and Bloem Celtic doing very well to kind of take the initiative in that game. This is the most corniest saying in the world, but it was a game of two halves. That one, where in the first half, Celtic seemed to be in the ascendancy, and then of course the home side just finding their rhythm a bit more in that one, Brian. Obviously for SuperSports, they're looking to defend it. For Celtic, they're looking to be the underdog story that we've been saying a lot about Celtic. They just kind of be boxing above their weight division on many occasions, and this might be one where they go back home and they finish the job. But what did you make of this first leg?
I think it was an interesting game. The games between these two teams always been draws.
Right.
Celtic haven't lost a game in a cup against SuperSport. If you look at the matches they've played, a lot of matches have been draws and eventually winning them on penalties. So we expected more of the same thing in the encounter that's played on Sunday. But for me, something that I think John Maduka will look at and realize we missed out on a great opportunity was to try and attack the left-back position of SuperSport United. Onispo Basera got the red card. Brimudiba has just gone to Sundowns. They eventually found themselves using Mahachi to play in the leg back position.
Right.
So I think if they had actually piled more pressure where Mahachi was playing, they could have gotten more out of it. But I mean, the master stroke of the goal that was scored by Bloemfontein Celtic, the layoff coming from Letsoalo to pick up Mabena, who just returning to the starting 11 after being out for a few matches at the start of the season. I thought he was supposed to be going to AmaZulu at some stage. There were rumors about that. He showed up, the captain, he scored a goal. You spoke about a game of two halves. The first half was nice and dry and cloudy. Second half, it was pouring cats and dogs. And eventually, SuperSport scored a goal. I think, fair result.
Yeah.
SuperSport, towards the end, could have won it. But I believe it's okay. Poised very well for the next round, for the next leg.
I'm sure Mazola, as a Free State boy, are you thinking that Ndumiso Mabena probably goes down or is starting to build a bit of a legacy as far as being a legend at Celtic? I mean, formative in this game and, a reference point in terms of their development and how far they've come.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear the rumors that he'd be leaving the club. He's been captain for a couple of seasons now, the focal point up front. I think would have to go back a few years before where he was not the guy, the man responsible. I mean, at some point, Pito Musimani said he's their Messi. Obviously, a bit of a stretch, but that's how important he is to AmaZulu. But for me, the game was okay, like Sunday afternoon,
it's a Sunday,
seven colors,
If the itis gets me, it's okay.
Yeah,
but if I watch the game, it's okay.
Yeah, if I have to switch to watch SA Idols, that's what I'll do. But, But anyway, like I think the weather obviously had an impact in that. So interesting to see the second leg, because I think obviously SuperSport are the reigning champions. So, you know, people are already saying they've booked themselves. Not they Pirates are waiting for them in the final. You know, they think maybe they'll get the better of Celtic in the second leg. But I don't know. Celtic were just recently in the Nedbank Cup final. They've somehow become this team, like, as you said earlier, Kamza, they're punching above their weights quite more often than not. I mean, even with the scandal of salaries and is the club being sold or is it not being sold? And they've kind of been performing season in, season out. So obviously, as a Free State boy, I'd love to see my home team make it to the final.
Yeah, for sure. John T, in terms of, on the other side, in terms of what Caetano's doing, he has to contend with an aging defense. I mean, if you looked at Clayton Daniels and Moani Kumalo, they were pretty much second to a lot of things in that defense. And like Brian was pointing out, you're using Mahachi as a wing back. Just he needs to find some sort of stability. And now with the 17th being around the corner, we know they're not going to do much business. But what do they do to arrest what is an aging back line? Is it a case of trying to find that balance of pairing one of them with a younger player? How does he manage that?
Yeah, I think he's got to try and find balance, as you mentioned. I don't think SuperSport will be signing anyone. Unlike Sundowns, they don't have an unlimited budget to go and throw a checkbook at the problem. So they've just got to deal with it within the squad. They've obviously lost Modiba. He was a great threat for them going forward and a good guy for them when they wanted to keep their defensive shape. So I think that's one of their best players. But they have had a reasonable start to the season. The loss to Arrows was obviously a big disappointment for them, and a 1-1 draw in the semi leaves the game beautifully balanced. So I think, he does have to manage it, and I'm not sure that Kumalo and Daniels can certainly go on the whole season. I mean, Clayton Daniels will probably stay there, but Bongani maybe he's getting on. He'll have to manage him, and he plays certain games, and he'll have to find a way to get that situation to work. They've also lost Furman, who was a big shield in front of the back four for them as well, with his energy. So they have got to sort of find a way to manage all of that. I think going forward, they've got some nice players. Lungu looks really useful. Bradley Grobler is still banging the goals. They've got that element. Rusika will come back soon. I think it'll be an exciting second leg. I also think Celtic with Letsoalo, Mabena, Motebangsera, the Lesotho striker has also done really well at Celtic. So I think it could be more goals in the second leg, given the two sides' defence.
Now that we're picking up on SuperSport United and we haven't had a discussion around them, knowing all that and, the defence, you've got a good striker in Frobla, you've got a decent midfield. What's the mandate now this season, and is it different, and how is it different from last season?
Yeah, look, it's a difficult one because obviously you haven't brought in reinforcements. I think had it not been for budget cuts, because obviously Stan Matthews did confirm to us, the press, that there were budget cuts. I think they've made quite a bit of money, you would assume, from selling Aubrey, and that is the one player that Stan was clear that we will have to sell him to balance the books because we've had budget cuts. So I think if they'd been able to keep Aubrey and bring in one or two to reinforce, then the mandate becomes Caetano try and challenge for the league title, because this is what now? This is his third season?
Yeah, he's
second season, second full season. Yeah. So, it's enough time. So you could say challenge for the league title, but I think SuperSport have always been able to finish in a respectable position in the top 8 over the last, I think over the last 20 years, or even in the PSL era, they've never finished outside the top 8. But you still look at that squad and you think it is a decent squad. It's well balanced. They've got Lucky Muhomi. Obviously, he hasn't played much football, but he would look to plug that gap left by Dean Furman. And they'll get some of the youngsters who can play centre back and give Bongani and Clayton a bit of rest. They've got George Chikova to compete, to give Rowan Fernandez. I'm thinking Rowan Fernandez. Sorry, Ronwen Williams as the captain, a bit of a push. They'll be able to keep Hobla, it looks like, because obviously there's apparent interest from Chiefs and Pirates that we all know about, but they'll be able to hold on to him. So, look, on paper, I think Caetano has a shout for a league title, but in reality, maybe not.
In reality, maybe not, Mazala Mulifa says. We're going to take a short little break, after which we continue as far as this discussion is concerned around what's happening La Mzansi in our football. You're on Monday Night Football on Soweto TV. We continue after this. Welcome back, Monday Night Football on Soweto TV. Thank you so much for joining us. That hashtag MNF on Soweto TV. I'm joined by the Laduma journalist, Mazala Molefe. I've got SABC commentator, Brian Mufokeng, and the editor for The Citizen, John T. Mark. Gents, let's go into what I seem as, it almost seems like it's a segment every week. Administration, football administration. Now it looks like, in terms of Oupa Manyisa and Josef Malongoane, having not kicked a ball for TTM, they're now been released, it would seem, back into the wild. Is that what it is?
Yeah, well, look, I, for one, I have been vindicated with the Oupa Manyisa story, because when I first wrote that story, you know, I was being hammered for causing...
You're always hammered. Have you got hammer insurance? Because you're always getting
You know, people saying, no, I'm trying to stir up trouble. How can the guy, you know, be let go, released from his contract when he just arrived? He's not even kicked the ball. I said, just you wait. Just you wait.
There we go.
You know, but obviously I'm not happy that a man's lost his job.
Of course.
You know, and
it's just the manner, I guess.
Yeah, and then the manner in which that's happened. How unprofessional for a guy to sign a 2-year contract. You unveil him, you parade him as your marquee signing, you know, and then 2 months later you tell him, no, you know, we can't afford you. You are injury prone. You have to leave. So I think Oupa should take them to the cleaners. I think he should sue. You know, so should Gustavo Paez, and so should Josef Malongoane. So because these are the players that were obviously supposed to be the backbone or the core of that team. You know,
so what are you saying with Paez? You've thrown him in the mix, but it was, you know, reports suggest that he hasn't got his clearance from the previous team.
Well, that's what the club says. That's what the club says. But we spoke to Paez last week, and Paez says, I've got my clearance in my hand. The issue has now become my salary. You know, and they feel like also my clearance is not legit enough. They don't want the same thing that happened to Kaizer Chiefs to happen to them, which, you know, I really I think that the club is trying to, you know, wiggle their way out of you know, a contract that now seems possibly to be too expensive, which is the same case with Oupa and Josef, because I wouldn't think they would leave Kaizer Chiefs, where you know a lot of us would know that those clubs pay good salaries, especially Mamelodi Sundowns,
for sure.
You know, on decent salaries, and then go to TTM, which TTM had been promising everyone in the world. You know, come here. You know, you could see even the list of players that they unveiled, the 22 players, some of which they were a bit, you know, chacharach in unveiling them, because Mulenga turned up at Amazulu, Brian Onyango is at Sundowns. So which players did you sign here? So that in itself speaks to the administration of the club as well. So, you know, the said case, but dare I say, Kamza, we could possibly see more departures even before this window is closing. And even when it's closed, because those players, remember, if you don't get your salaries within 2 months, you can go straight to the PSL, DRC or FIFA, get your clearance and go join a club of your choice.
Paez was an isolated incident, right? You could say maybe, okay, TTM, let's believe TTM. But I mean, the simple fact is that they're an administrative mess and have been from the beginning. And it's really an embarrassment off the field. On it, they've been quite good.
For sure.
They've played quite well. I've been really impressed with them.
You're right. I thought about the Paez. I was like, oh yeah, no, surely what's happened to Chiefs, they don't want to be in the same situation.
Know, how do you sign a player? Who's doing your books? Who's doing your accounting? That you suddenly can't afford to pay for these players. That you suddenly, your salary's too high. Well, do you just realise that?
Exactly.
In the morning you got in the shower, you went, hang on a minute, Oupa Manyisa's salary's too high, I'm going to now have to let him go. Oh, Malongoane is too. I mean, it doesn't speak very well of the administration at TTM. None of this does. And I'd say there's, you know, they could, I wouldn't, Mazzola says there's more to come. That wouldn't surprise me at all, because, as he said, Onyango's now at Sundowns. Onyango's at Amazulu. There could be other players who end up, you have to ask, are there going to be problems with down the line with players players who are at the team now getting their salaries?
Well, that's the thing.
It seems like a total financial mess.
It seems like it might be a movie we've seen before, Brian. What's your take on it? I mean, looking at it, do you feel some sympathy for TTM, or do you feel like they are running it like the way they've been running this club, and that's brought them into a lot of trouble with, you know, you had the heritage situation, you've got lots of people who've had a bone to pick with the club from an administrative perspective?
It depends where you're sitting. You know, if somebody who was in marketing will tell you every time your name get mentioned is good news, because you're always frontline.
There's no such thing as bad publicity.
There's no bad publicity at all. Every time everybody talks about you, you're always there. But I tell you, from a footballing point of view, it's just chaos.
Right.
I remember when I did their first game when they played against SuperSport.
Right.
As the new Vets, TTM, and they only have 3 players on the bench.
Huh.
And they claimed the reason why those players, they couldn't get enough players on the bench was because they couldn't register most of the players. There was an issue with getting those players cleared. The reason was simple. The players that mentioned as their players were not their players. The first 2 they signed, according to them, are the ones they're releasing. Oupa, Manyisa and Malongoane were the first one invading that the top players were bringing to the team. And that's a problem.
For sure.
But you also have to think about it. If you're a team based in Limpopo, teams based in Limpopo will not be able to pay the sort of salary they're paying in Gauteng, given the way the teams are structured.
Yes.
In a way. So by virtue of coming around as the main guy at TTM and saying, I want all these players, I want to challenge and take over from Black Leopards and be the one that is the shining glory for the Limpopo side, Baroka is going to fall by wayside. Then you realize, you look at the numbers, whoa, wait a minute. I can't afford to have John T. You know, and I mean, they're playing very well. Look at Ngele, scored 3 goals. You know, and you can see that on a field of play, they have a very good team.
For sure.
If they sort out the administration issues, I believe a lot of teams are going to struggle to play against TTM.
I tend to agree with you. They do have a good squad, but you almost need just that back office support now to come to the party and stabilize things.
Look, Kamza, it can only go on for so long, you know, because I'm telling you now, some of these players, as it is, some of them did not receive their full salaries for the month of October, you know. So you're playing there, giving your heart out. Toto is scoring week in, week out, you know. Look, and remember, the window is still open. You know, these guys can easily get their clearances and go somewhere else where they will be guaranteed getting full salaries at the end of every month. So I promise you, before the window is closed, you know, I will eat humble pie. I am sure of it. I think we will have 1 or 2 more being released by that club. I can assure you that it's coming. And I could even go as far as saying, even during the course of the season, we are probably going to see some players leave, clearance in hand, because they have not been paid their full salaries over a number of months.
You know you won't go to Limpopo anymore.
For telling the truth. For telling the truth, teller.
Bring it on.
What happened when you spoke about the Oupa Manyisa story? It was almost hammered and killed on Twitter, so even on social media. So now,
well, he's the Messiah now
saying
because
there'll be more
he's
players going.
He's proven it.
I'm walking on water now.
Walking on water now. Let's get around this just before we go and leave for the day. This whole thing with Kaizer Chiefs, a lot of people were very confused about the fact that, oh no, the players that are training with them can go out on loan and be loaned out to other people whilst being their players and come back. But having sought the legal clarity, it would seem now the club have made peace with the fact that, that's not the case. We cannot register anybody. But there's also a suspicion that, you know, things have been signed.
Well, it has to be because they made a statement today saying the players that were training with us or something to that effect. They didn't name a single player. So they're not naming players that they've released. They're just saying the players that training with us.
Well, there's Santi,
free
there's
to join
Nange,
online.
there's
Yeah, well,
Peterson.
everyone knows that.
Yeah.
But they haven't come out and said that. It's almost as if they're worried about naming them.
Why would they be worried?
Obviously, they're trying to cover their tracks. I mean, it's as simple as that. But I really think this one, Chiefs should have left it alone. You don't have to make a statement about everything, you know. Leave us to speculate, you know, because you don't have to get involved. Because you know behind closed doors that you've signed these players and you're going to do a side loan so that you get them back on the 1st of July 2021. So why are you saying anything? Because I even saw, I think we were chatting about it, there's a comment where one of the fans, asks to say, are they going out on loan?
It's like they're not our players.
And then they are saying, will they come back? Say if they are available on the 1st of July 2021. I mean, it's just, this whole thing is just a legal minefield. So for Chiefs to get involved with a statement that is so vague, they can't even name the players.
For
Why
sure.
are you even issuing that statement?
For sure.
I just
Rather
think
provide clarity.
I just think there's just confusion within the club itself, you know, with regards to which approach should be taken. Because if I'm sitting there as the football manager or whoever is bringing in these players, I've guaranteed these players that, look, we can't register you, but we can sign you. But what we can do, we have gentlemen's agreement with the Salos, with the Stellenbosch, with whoever, to say, we'll give them a reverse, what they call a reverse clearance.
Okay.
To say, here's a reverse clearance. The player can go to you for the rest of the season, and then just as we sign as we do a gentleman's agreement, then immediately you also issue us with a clearance that says 1st July 2021, you can go and join Kaizer Chiefs. That's a gentleman's agreement. It's been done before. Sundowns did it with Golden Arrows for Kuda Mahachi, when they couldn't register him because I think they had exceeded their foreign quota, but they already signed the player. So what do? Do you send the player back home or where you got it from?
Right.
No, you pack him here in South Africa somewhere and you say, Jonty, please, my brother, keep him for me.
Yeah.
It's been done before. It's nothing new. So for Chiefs to be, you shouldn't. It's so annoying. It is so annoying.
I can tell you're annoyed.
But also, I mean, Vets did it also with when they got Mango, because they already were.
My
with
point
food.
exactly.
They took him to Golden
It's
Arrows.
been
Eventually,
done
he came back.
before.
But I think what Chief said, there was a statement they issued before this to say they were still trying to the legal minds to find out if those players who have received their clearances
Can be
and are
registered as free agents.
can
on the
they
1st of
register
March.
them from the 1st of March? Because
Right.
when the January transfer market closes, are they available? So they're still seeking advice on that part. But I believe from a government point of view, he knows the players he wants. He wants your Santis, he wants to stabilize the left back, he wants to have, because he's going to be fighting a lot of fights. I mean, he's got Champions League, the league, and all of that to talk about. And so Soweto also was brought by Vets into the country. Gavin wants to play with him. Nange, well, they got him from Black Leopards.
Yeah.
So he'll want those players at Chiefs. So I think for me, where they're sitting now is that, as Mazola is saying, sign those players, let them go, bring them back at the end of June.
Don't
They start
issue
from-
statements.
Don't say anything about it. It's got nothing to do with anybody else.
Why are you issuing
You know,
statements?
because the other team cannot afford to sign that player.
Yeah.
You're saying to them, here's Mazola available. We want him back at the end of the season.
Take you.
Simple. Who wouldn't want Swiswatland?
sure.
Who wouldn't want Nange?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want Brendan Peterson?
For sure. Those are top players.
You know,
They could
those
be
are top
parked.
players.
They can be
Chiefs
parked.
can say, take these players. We can have a gentleman agreement. I will pay half his salary. Or better yet, I'll pay his full salary because I'd given him an employment contract anyway.
Right.
You know, it was his choice whether he stays in the stands and not play but receive a salary
Right.
just training,
Yeah.
or he gets game time. Obviously, the coach prefers that they get game time somewhere else.
Wherever else
so
it
that
may be, yeah.
eventually when they come back next season,
good
they are
to
match
go.
fit and they hit the ground running. Because imagine if you've gone 6 or 7 months without playing, then Gavin can't throw you in immediately in the first couple of
course.
weeks when the new
course.
season starts.
Yeah.
So I just think it's just silly, really. Like,
I can feel it. I can feel it.
It's
I can
annoying.
feel it from
It's
you.
annoying.
I can feel it from you. Folks, we'll take a little break, after which we're going to come back. I promise we'll read some of your impressions. They're coming through thick and fast on that hashtag of MNF on Soweto TV. We continue right after this. Welcome back. You're on Soweto TV. It's Monday Night Football as we discuss in terms of some transfers that have happened, the incomings and outgoings at Sundowns. 14 new players have been brought in the latest of them being Brian Onyango. That's a big number. It's a big number.
That's as many as TTM had in the first.
Exactly, yeah. That was TTM squad. TTM squad for the first game of the season. So it is possible. I mean, let's talk about that, because obviously they have an embarrassment of riches. Remember, I once told Coach Pizzo that he didn't understand at the time. But yeah, they have an embarrassment of riches. They bring in 14 new players. Surely players have got to go. Brian, you're a stats guy. Who's not made an impact? I mean, you see sometimes there's these weird periods where they try to bring out a player who's been in the stands just to kind of, give him a run. But there's a lot of players who, haven't really.
I saw a statement.
Yeah.
And I think that was also read out of context. Everybody started taking Malongoane to say he doesn't want Kapinga.
Oh, yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And I think he was just explaining to say, if you are to be part of Sundowns, there are certain things you need to understand. For example, you need to improve on your defensive mode as well as the attacking. You cannot be a player on a field of play and just be attack-minded.
Are you referring to Lesedi Kapinga?
Yes,
Okay,
Lesedi Kapinga.
there we go.
So that was the issue that we were having, and we're talking about that. But if you look at the signings alone, let's have a look in the middle of a park. You bring in a Kapinga, you bring in a Magaman, you're bringing in a George. Already there.
Mvala.
George already showed that he can actually be able to play there.
Mvala.
Comes in. So already the team has too many players.
Yeah.
You know, too much quality as well. It's not just quantity, but quality. They already brought in. There's some home here to actually leave because he realized not going to be able to play there.
Right.
You know, you look in the right back position, Lukubeni with the return of Tapelo Morena. It was already a problem there. You know, for me, some players will have to go. Mathambi, injury prone.
Right.
I think for me, he'll need to probably go somewhere else for him to get some game time, be able to play. Semisiabi for me, I think Polokwane City missed him a lot. Hence, they eventually got relegated. And Sundowns took him and they never used him. Eventually sent him out to go on a loan stint.
Right.
So I see him going. Wayne Arendse, you know, some people are saying Wayne will go, but I believe that Wayne, with the experience he has in the Champions League,
For sure.
they
He's
might
an
need him
asset
to
still.
stay around to be
Right.
able to do something for them when they go to the Champions League. But knowing Sundowns with Onyango coming in, do you still need a Wayne?
That's baffling that Onyango
That's
signed
another
him.
situation you need to be thinking about. You know, so that's another challenge to talk about. Obimriba on the left-hand side of the field, you already have Mukuseli there who can actually play that position. You already have, so there's so many.
So what I'm hearing Brian say is that they should be winning the league every season. That's what he's saying.
From what they signed.
Oh,
But remember,
sure.
those players were signed during Pito's tenure.
Yeah.
Yes, he might have consulted and spoken about it, but he's left.
Yeah.
How many of those players are really wanted by the current coaches?
For sure. For sure.
That's
three
the
people
question.
you have to impress.
Two and a half.
2.5.
Yeah, three.
2.5. Who's the half?
Imagine calling
He's a senior coach.
Steve is such a giant. That time Steve was a giant. He's calling him a half. But let's talk about that because that's a good point that you raised, especially the Lesedi Kapinga comments that came out last week. It doesn't make sense, you know. You brought in a player and here are the coaches saying that, yeah, no, not up to scratch to make an impact here. Is that a fair thing to say to a player to kind of get them going?
I'll defend Coach Mangoba a little
Yeah.
bit because Coach Pito used to say the exact same thing
Right.
about new players anyway.
Yeah.
You know, he was at the club almost 8 years, and every season when he signed new players, he would say that about a new player. I'd say, not quite there yet.
Yeah.
That's why maybe he had to go on loan, or not quite there yet because it's so demanding to play for Sundowns. So I think because obviously Coach Mangoba has been at the club also 4 or 5 years.
Right.
You know, so he's also kind of like the same wavelength as the previous head coach.
Yes.
You know, so I understand the statement. Obviously, because of this, the whole thing that they've signed 14 players, and you know, Coach Mangoba himself has admitted that a few have to go out on loan to have a manageable size squad.
Yeah.
So obviously, I think the Kapinga comments are sort of being blown out of proportion, especially because he hasn't played. I mean, he could have said that about any of the new signings. He could have said
signings,
about
yeah.
Kermit, could have said about Mvala, who's also not really kicked the ball. He could have said about Moby, who's come back from Stellenbosch, a good loan stint, but he's played one game and he's out the team because Tapelo is there. You know, you just pick one of the 14. He could have said any of that about those players. So I sort of want to defend him there a little bit. But I wanted to go back to the Brian Onyango signing. Mind-boggling. He hasn't kicked the ball since May 2019. He's failed trials at Baroka. He's failed trials at Chippa. He's failed trials at Pirates. And then he gets a 3-year contract at Mamelodi Sundowns. Like,
John C., crack that case. Crack that case.
I have no idea how to crack that case. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Sundowns, as these gentlemen have been talking about, it's not as if they desperately need a defender to bolster their ranks because they don't have enough.
Yeah.
They've got cover, and then some more cover, and then a bit more cover in every position.
Sure.
It's like, it doesn't make any sense. It's just, there's got to be some sort of story that will come out about, down the line about the real reason for that. Because why?
yeah, it doesn't make
I mean,
sense.
maybe he'll play 35 times for them this season, and we'll all be proved wrong. But I don't think so.
Because as Brian was saying, you still have Wayne there,
Yeah.
who's, we've done a story about Wayne initially not really wanting to leave because of his experience, thinking I might not play enough, but my experience will help the youngsters. But now with Brian Onyango coming in, you know, talk of possibly thinking, I'm 36, I'll be 37 next season.
Right.
I might as well. But the package has to be good, obviously. I mean, Wayne's been at Sundowns for 9 years, you know, and you can just imagine the package that he's probably on. And he's thinking, I'm comfortable, I'm nearing retirement, why should I leave?
Exactly.
So he's probably thinking, even if I get 2 games, I mean, Bangali's been at Sundowns for 5 years.
Yeah,
Last
exactly.
season he played 3 games. I mean, and he's not gone anyway. He's still there.
Check collectors.
Like,
Check collectors. Gents, let's talk about the upcoming fixtures for tomorrow and Wednesday. Pick of the bunch, obviously, we see the likes of SuperSport United before the MTN8 game against Stellenbosch. You have Cape Town City in action against Mamelodi Sundowns. Pirates will be taking on Celtic in what some may say is a dress rehearsal for the final. But out of the fixtures this week, what would be the pick of the bunch for you, starting with you, Jonty?
City Sundowns.
City
just 'cause
Sundowns?
it's, you know, City are in good form. Sundowns have signed Kermit Erasmus. Don't know if he'll be fit to play. Missed the last game, but if he is, it'll be very exciting. He's got a good record of scoring against his former clubs, so that could be interesting if he scores against them. So yeah, I think there's a lot of intrigue there. Also, because Sundowns, they need a bit of a pick-up again after a disappointing draw with TTM in their last match. So there's plenty of intrigue in that one. I would say that one.
yeah, I'll probably say that one too, but also on the back of what happened over the weekend, Chiefs and TS Galaxy.
Yeah.
You've got to have
Bounce back.
Yeah, you know, are they going to bounce back or are they going to be undone by Denden's side as well? You know, because obviously they play that good football. If you're giving them enough space to turn the bus in the box there,
like they did for Pule.
like they did for Pule, yeah, then
At least Lepasa's not there at TS Galaxy.
Yeah, I know. Yours, Brian?
It's going to be Celtic Pirates.
Celtic Pirates.
because Zinnbauer's not there.
Yeah, I think also Zinnbauer is not there, number one, and the fact that, you know, your Mabenas, they always love to play against their former teams and really cause a lot of problems. You know, Lanchane Palani loves playing against Pirates. His first ever goal was against Pirates.
Probably
and it was
won't
a
be
Thunderbolt.
available for that game though.
Yeah, so it's also
The
another
groin
problem.
injury.
But then you're talking about your Lucky Baloi. So I'm looking forward to the game. It dress rehearsal for the final, I think.
There we
But
go.
we'll talk.
There we go. Okay, well, folks, we're done. We're out of time, unfortunately. That's how it works as far as being on television. It's Katia Hamba, and we've run out of it for this week. But please do join the conversation on our Twitter at Front Sports. Thank you so much to my panel, as always, for your thoughts and your knowledge. And to you, everybody at home who's been tuned in to Monday Night Football on Soweto TV. We'll do it again in a week's time. Until then, check out the YouTube page because we'll turn around all this good stuff on there. For myself, Kamza Mata, take care. Good night.